Welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're unpacking a concept we think we know inside and out love,
Hmm.
but our source material, it's this really fascinating lecture from Rabbi Itamar Schwartz called The Power of Love, Chesed, and it suggests, well, a kind of hidden architecture to love that's truly profound.
It really does challenge some common assumptions.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
So our mission today is to discover why some acts of giving connect us so deeply, while others, seemingly kind acts can sometimes leave us feeling a bit empty.
Right?
We want to uncover how the deepest form of human connection isn't just a feeling, but actually a powerful, intentional act. And hopefully this will fundamentally reshape how you view, well, pretty much every interaction.
That's the goal. It's quite transformative when you start looking at it this way.
Okay, let's unpack this then. It seems our source challenges the usual understanding of love as just an emotion. It's saying it has these distinct, profound layers. How does Rabbi Schwartz break down these depths for us?
Well, what's really fascinating here is how he lays out these three distinct layers. So the most external layer, the most visible one, is what he calls cheesed.
Cheesed, right. Benevolence or kindness.
Exactly. Benevolence, kindness. It's the physical act of giving. Think about people who love each other's spouses, parents, and kids, good friends they naturally give to each other. It's the stuff you can see, the tangible expression.
Okay, the outward action. Makes sense. What's next?
So beneath that, or maybe behind that, is the middle layer, Ahavah, which is simply love.
Ahava.
Got it. This is presented as the inner source, the root of that giving. So often, love leads directly to the act of giving, the cheesed.
Sure, that seems intuitive.
But here's where it gets really interesting. The lecture also quotes that famous idea. After the deeds, hearts are drawn,
Ah, right. I've heard that.
which implies that the act of giving, the cheesed, can actually cultivate and deepen the Ahavah, the love.
So it's a two-way street. Love causes giving, but giving can also cause love.
Precisely. Giving can be born from love, or it can be used intentionally to create love. It's quite dynamic.
Wow. Okay. And the third layer, you said there were three.
Yes, the third. And this is the deepest, the most internal layer. It's called Akhdut.
Dude, what does that translate to?
Oneness, unity. And Rabbi Schwartz is quite clear here. Ahavah, love, isn't actually the final destination.
Really? Not love.
No. In this framework, Ahavah is seen more as a tool. A powerful tool, yes, but one that's ultimately designed to lead us to this profound, ultimate state of Akhdut, of oneness, where the separation between, say, the lover and the beloved starts to dissolve. It's about becoming one, not two.
Oneness. That's a big concept. This layering immediately makes me think of that phrase, Olam Yibane. The world is built on cheese. How does this deeper view of love, these layers, reframe that idea?
That's a great connection. If we link this layered understanding to Olam Yibane, the simple take is, well, yeah, when people care for each other, give to each other, the world functions, it thrives.
Right. Society needs cooperation.
Exactly. A world where everyone's only out for themselves just wouldn't work. But the deeper understanding, the one the teaching emphasizes, points towards the Creator.
Okay.
The idea is that the Creator built the world out of pure benevolence, an act of, all cheesed, all giving. The intention was purely to do good for all creations.
An act of divine giving, essentially.
Yes, and the ultimate purpose of that creation, that initial divine cheesed, is the revelation of oneness, of Akhdut, throughout the entire creation.
Wow. So the world being built on cheese is really about it being built towards oneness.
That's the deeper implication presented here.
Yeah.
And Rabbi Schwartz also points out that cheesed is considered the root of all attributes, the middot in the human soul.
The root of everything.
He uses this powerful analogy. Imagine building a house. You use thousands of individual bricks, right?
Sure.
But once the house is built, you don't look at it and say, I have thousands of bricks. You say, I have one house.
Right. It becomes a single entity.
In the same way, cheesed, this act of giving rooted in love, builds the world by unifying everything, bringing all these separate parts towards a state of oneness. The ultimate purpose, for us, is to discover this unified perception. And cheesed, ideally stemming from inner Ahavah, is the engine driving that process.
Okay, that clarifies the ideal. But here's where it gets, well, maybe a bit tricky in real life. Is all giving really cheesed in this deep sense? I mean, you mentioned the root should be Ahavah.
That's a crucial point.
Does that mean things like, I don't know, giving to charity out of obligation or helping someone just because you feel sorry for them? Does that not count, or is it different?
It is different, according to this teaching. Rabbi Schwartz makes some really important distinctions about what isn't considered cheesed in its deepest, truest sense. Things that look like giving on the surface, but the root is different.
Okay, like what?
Well, first, there's what he calls commercial or transactional giving. This is basically giving to get something back.
Quid pro quo.
Exactly. Yeah. Even if it's subtle, the example he uses is a supermarket owner giving someone goods for a post-dated check.
Right.
That looks like giving, but it's commerce. He expects payment. He wouldn't just hand over the goods otherwise.
Right, that's a business deal.
Or even just exchanging favors. I'll watch your kids today if you watch mine tomorrow. It's useful, it can be friendly, but it's based on reciprocity, not purely on love or the desire to connect in that deeper way. It's not cheesed.
Okay, transactional giving is out. What else?
Then there's giving out of pity or mercy.
Hmm.
The Hebrew term is rachamim.
Rachamim, mercy.
Right. Here, you're giving because you feel sorry for someone's situation, not necessarily out of a deep love or connection to that specific person.
Can you give an example?
The one used in the source is helping a child cross the street. You see a kid looking lost, maybe hot and struggling. You feel bad for them, so you help.
Which is a kind thing to do.
Absolutely a kind thing. But the motivation, according to this framework, isn't necessarily Ahavah for that particular child whom you probably don't know. It stems from a feeling of pity or general compassion for their plight. So it's giving, but the source isn't Ahavah aiming for Akhdut with that person.
I see the distinction. It's about the specific root of the action.
Precisely. And the third category he mentions is giving out of obligation. Think mitzvah or tzedakah, charity.
Giving charity isn't cheesed. That sounds counterintuitive.
Well, it can be, but it isn't inherently cheesed in this specific deep sense if it's done purely to fulfill a commandment without any conscious thought for the recipient's well-being or a personal connection.
You mean just ticking a box?
Sort of. The text puts it like the giver might just see it as an act they have to perform, almost like putting on tefillin. There might be no internal feeling of love or connection towards the person receiving the charity. It might even be done, to get some reward or avoid some misfortune for oneself.
So the why behind the giving is absolutely critical.
It's everything. For an act to be true cheesed, aimed at building that deeper connection, it either needs to genuinely originate from Ahavah, from love, or at least be intended to cultivate that love.
So what does this all mean then? If the motivation is key, what's the most crucial ingredient for an act to truly be considered deep cheesed? Is it about thinking about it?
Yes, exactly. Awareness, or moda, as Rabbi Schwartz calls it. This is absolutely paramount.
Awareness. In what way?
Two ways, really. First, there's the awareness of doing cheesed. He points out that so many acts of giving, especially within families, happen almost unconsciously. Think about a mother, for example. Cooking, cleaning, caring for the kids. She's performing countless acts of cheesed all day long.
Right. It just becomes routine.
Exactly. She might not even be consciously aware that she's giving in that moment, let alone connecting it back to the love she feels.
Yeah.
That's the first level of awareness needed, just recognizing the act as giving.
Okay. Recognizing the action itself. What's the second way?
The second is the awareness of the motivation behind the giving. Really understanding why you're doing it. Is this coming from a place of love? Or perhaps if the love feels weak right now, am I doing this in order to strengthen the love, to build that connection?
Being intentional about the why.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because if a person gives something, an object, their time, whatever, and that giving is truly rooted in love, then the recipient isn't just getting the thing, they're receiving a piece of the giver's soul, their love embedded within it.
Like that saying, as water reflects a face, so one's heart reflects another's.
That's the exact quote used in the source. The idea is that genuine love-based giving creates a heart-to-heart reflection.
And what happens if that awareness isn't there? What are the consequences of just, going through the motions of giving without that conscious intent?
Well, the teaching suggests some pretty significant consequences. First, on a personal level, you lose self-awareness. You can become, as Rabbi Schwartz puts it, like a robot, just performing actions without real presence.
Not really living consciously.
Right. And more profoundly, you fail to actively develop your inner soul powers, the capacity for cheesed, for Ahavah. These are like muscles. They need to be exercised consciously.
And the biggest consequence.
The most critical one, according to this, is that if you give without being aware of the love or without intending to fuel that love, you simply can't reach that ultimate state of oneness, of Akhdut. You remain stuck on the surface level.
Wow. So the awareness is the bridge to the deeper levels.
It seems to be. And it matters on the receiver side, too.
How so?
The recipient needs to feel that they received love, not just the material object of the service. There's an interesting interpretation given of the phrase, one who hates gifts lives.
That sounds odd, hating gifts.
The explanation is that the person doesn't hate the physical gift itself. What they hate, or rather what they truly desire and feel the lack of, is the love that should be within the gift. If they only feel they got an object or an obligatory act, it's hard for that real connection, that love, to be truly fostered or received.
So the receiver needs to perceive the love intention.
Ideally, yes. Now, obviously, in the wider world, people often do assume ulterior motives, right?
Yeah.
If your boss gives you a bonus, you might naturally think, okay, what's the catch, or what do they want?
Sure, that's realistic.
But the teaching emphasizes that in our closest relationships between spouses, parents, and children, there should be this underlying trust, this basic assumption that the giving is stemming from love. If you get a gift from your child and your first thought is, okay, what do they want now? That signals a potential issue in the underlying connection, in the default assumption of love.
That really highlights the importance of trust and close bonds. Okay, so we have Chesed leading to Ahavah, ideally with awareness, aiming for Akhdut. You said Ahavah is the tool and Akhdut is the destination. What's the fundamental difference between them? Is Ahavah, love as we usually think of it, not eternal?
That's a key point the teaching makes. Ahavah, love, is often described as being dependent on a thing.
Dependent on a thing. What does that mean?
It means it can fluctuate. It can be strong one day, weaker the next. It might depend on shared interests, circumstances, how the other person behaves. And because it's dependent, it could potentially weaken or even end.
Like relationships ending.
Exactly. Rabbi Schwartz acknowledges this reality. People who once loved each other deeply, spouses who divorce, friends who drift apart, their love, their Ahavah, wasn't absolute. It was conditional in some way. And when the conditions changed, the love faded or broke.
Okay, so Ahavah is conditional, potentially temporary. How is Akhdut different?
Akhdut, oneness, is defined as an unbreakable, unconditional connection. It's described as an inner power that is not dependent on a thing. It just is. It cannot be nullified.
Unbreakable. Like what are examples of that?
The prime example given is self-love. Barring severe mental illness, the teaching suggests that a person's fundamental connection or love for themselves is inherent. It's not conditional on whether they succeed or fail, or whether they like their own behavior that day. It's a baseline state of oneness with oneself.
Okay, self-love as inherent oneness. That makes sense. Any other examples?
The other really powerful one is the parent-child bond.
Ah.
The idea is that even if a parent and child become completely estranged, even if they actively dislike or, God forbid, hate each other, that fundamental connection, that root oneness, cannot actually be divorced. It remains.
Even if they never speak again.
Even then. The source cites this stark example from Rabbi Israel Salanter. Imagine a father who is deeply estranged from his son, maybe even hates him, but dearly loves a particular student. If there was a fire, Rabbi Salanter posits, the father would instinctively save his son first, over the beloved student.
Wow.
It demonstrates that deep, innate, unbreakable Akhdut connection that exists beneath the surface feelings or circumstances. It's not about liking necessarily, it's about fundamental unity.
That's incredibly powerful. It suggests a connection that transcends our feelings and choices.
And this connects back, interestingly, to the beginning of creation. The teaching notes that Adam and Eve, in their original unified state, didn't have the concept of divorce.
Because they were fundamentally one.
Exactly. Their connection was rooted in that foundational oneness. Divorce, Rabbi Schwartz explains, only became a possibility after the world became fragmented, after separation became the perceived reality.
Okay, that Salanter example is stark, but it really drives the point home about Akhdut being this inherent, unchangeable connection, almost like spiritual DNA. That's a profound thought, especially for navigating complex family stuff. So if this deep oneness Akhdut is the ultimate goal, how do we actually practically cultivate it? What are the steps we can take in our daily lives?
Well, the teaching circles back and outlines a very practical path, basically reinforcing the layers we discussed. It's a process.
Okay, what's step one?
Step one is conscious giving. Chuck.
Yeah.
Really be aware that you are performing an act of kindness, of benevolence. Don't just do it on autopilot. Notice it.
Be present in the act of giving.
Yeah.
Got it.
Step two is to examine your motivation. Ahavah. Ask yourself why you are giving this. Is it genuinely flowing from love right now? Or if maybe the love feels a bit thin, is your intention in giving this act to build or rekindle the love? Remember that idea. After the deeds, hearts are drawn. Use the giving intentionally.
So check the why and be intentional about fostering love. Okay.
And step three is to aim for oneness. Dakto. Keep the ultimate goal in mind. Recognize that all these conscious acts of giving, fueled by or aiming for love, are ultimately steps towards reaching that state of unity, where the sense of separation between you and the other person diminishes.
Conscious, cheesed, intentional Ahavah, aiming for Octet. It sounds like a clear pathway.
It is, and Rabbi Schwartz adds some crucial advice about where to start this practice.
Oh, where should we focus first?
He strongly emphasizes starting in your closest circles, your spouse first, then your children. Try to build this deep conscious love and work towards oneness there before trying to do it with, say, strangers or large organizations.
Why start so close to home?
Because attempting to build this kind of profound connection with people you barely know or with abstract groups is often, as he puts it, a guaranteed failure.
Really? Why?
Well, it often bypasses the real work needed in our primary relationships. Or the giving to strangers might more easily fall into that category of pity, rachamim, or obligation, rather than being a genuine attempt to build Ahavah and Akhdut. True oneness, built through love, requires that repeated conscious giving within a committed relationship, allowing the bond to deepen over time. Start where the deepest potential for Akhdut already exists.
That makes a lot of sense. Build the foundation strong before extending outwards.
Exactly. And finally, it's worth remembering that phrase, Olam Chesed Yibane. The world will be built on cheesed, its future tense.
Signifying it's an ongoing process.
Precisely. It's not finished. Giving continues, cheese continues, as long as we perceive separation between ourselves and others. The whole point of cheese, in this view, is to bridge those perceived gaps. When, theoretically, full oneness is achieved, the need for giving from one separate being to another actually diminishes.
Because there's no other to give to anymore.
In that ultimate unified state, yes, the purpose of the giving to overcome separation has been fulfilled.
Wow. What an incredible journey this deep dive has taken us on. From, simple acts of kindness all the way to this profound core of unity. It really does transform how you think about love, not just a feeling, but this powerful, active tool for deep transformation.
Absolutely. And what's truly profound, I think, is how it reinforces that the ultimate purpose of everything, the whole point of creation, the meaning behind phrases like, for my sake, in the context of redemption. It all culminates when everything is unified into that single oneness.
So the entire process, Olam Chesed Yibana, the world being built through kindness, that is the path.
That's exactly it. It's the path towards achieving that ultimate state of absolute unity. Giving cheese, in its purest, most conscious form, is the method prescribed here for dissolving that illusion of separation and revealing the oneness that, according to this teaching, already underlies all existence.
That leaves us with a lot to think about. So, reflecting on our deep dive today, maybe the question for you, the listener, is this. What one small act of giving can you undertake this week, but do it with a conscious awareness, aware of its root in love, or maybe its potential to build love and move towards that true oneness, especially within your closest relationships?
A powerful question to ponder.
Indeed. Thank you for joining us for another deep dive.